Let's talk about this terminology, contractor versus employee. What's the difference? Why does it matter? And what are some examples? A contractor is someone who works with us who is responsible for delivering a certain result, and they decide how to achieve that result. For instance, I may hire a contractor to develop my website. The understanding is that that person is the website expert. I'm not. They're going to get the website done. And after the website's done, our relationship in terms of working is over. It's temporal, it's seasonal, it's shorter. And how I would pay that person would be at a gross amount. And as a small business owner, I wouldn't have the employer taxes or expenses, and I wouldn't have to do withholding. And at the end of the year, I would issue that contractor a 1099. Versus employees or workers who fulfill a certain job function in a way that we expect, when and how we ask them to do that. So it's not necessarily that we're not having flexible work schedules and we're not encouraging creativity and autonomy. That's not it. But it's the difference between how much control the business has over the work that's being done, and whose work is that, the businesses, more so than project-based temporal. And in this case, we call them typically, and we call these people employees. And we do then pay taxes and withhold taxes on the employees' benefit for the employees' benefit. And at the end of the year, these folks get issued a W-2. All right, so why does it matter? Why are we talking about this? Independent contractors represent the largest growing group in the U.S. workforce. Some folks call subcontract work the gig economy, and people are increasingly liking the flexibility that comes with it, the variety, setting their own hours, being creative and doing things when and how they like to do. Independent contractors is becoming the largest, it's actually the largest growing group in the U.S. workforce. So there's a lot of people out there interested in this kind of work. The IRS is also interested in this large group of the U.S. workforce because there's income being passed without being taxed on a monthly, quarterly basis. Employers are not required to pay contractors a salary, benefits, or withhold employment taxes. And currently, they estimate that 3.4 million people or employees are being incorrectly classified as independent contractors. And as I said, the IRS is paying more and more attention to this because of taxes, because it's a growing group of workforce, and thirdly is the government is concerned about people who qualify for things like workers' comp or unemployment insurance or health benefits, that they are actually given that opportunity, so that a business doesn't quote unquote stack their staff with just contractors. It can be less expensive. We also can give up a lot of control, quality, and value. When there is a misclassification, the IRS considers some misclassifications to be unintentional. You know, I meant well, I made a mistake, I just didn't know, or I hired this person as a contractor and then over time they evolved to be an employee, but I never got back to changing classification. Those sorts of unintentional consequences. This list, I'll let you take a look. This list is from the IRS that says, here's what you might be fined if you find yourself in an unintentional situation of misclassifying people who work with you. So there's some fines, there's some liabilities.
As far as the classification goes, is that determined through the paperwork via like W-2s and 1099s?
Yes, if we, yes, we go back here, it's determined by the employer how we want to classify what the people are doing and how they're doing it. How the IRS knows is how we issue their pay. 1099s represent the summary of pay that a contractor earned while doing work for you. And an employee is a longer term relationship, and they're issued a W-2 to summarize how much money they made while they work for you. Another way the IRS sees the difference in classification is, we'll look at Form 941s here in a moment, is that contractors are paid as an expense line item from the business, not as a payroll expense. Therefore, when we're filing our federal tax forms, the contractors aren't going to show up on there. But at the end of the year, when we do our taxes, it is going to show up as a line item. And so the IRS could pay attention to, is that number growing? Is it declining? Do you have contractors at all? What does that number look like compared to employees? And we just have to know the difference and be able to justify and describe.
So with
Susan,
that, oh, sorry, you go, Lori.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So as
Dustin
far
and
as,
Lori.
is it okay to go, like someone could start, like you're saying, as a contractor with a 1099, and then you also give them a W-2 for if they transferred into being an employee?
You mean over time, like start as a contractor?
Yeah.
Absolutely. My business, Eastern Oregon Business Source, Dustin, has been built on exactly that. We do projects for clients. Someone may come and be a contractor to help us accomplish those deliverables. We may do that a time or two and find this is a great fit and this person is really good at this and they fit within our culture. Let's invite them to do this long term with us, and therefore we've made them employees. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It's actually, that method is actually becoming increasingly popular. You just, as the business owner, have to know when to make that switch and not let it go on too long, because then it's a red flag. Lori?
I was going to say what I've experienced is that if I have a contractor, they're going to give me a bid. They're going to give me a contract for whatever that is that I'm requesting they do. No different than if you're going to have a furnace put into your house. They're going to give you a bid. They're going to do that work. You're paying that company. So they're giving you a bid or a contract. And that's, an accountant has told me that once before. Do you have a physical contract that says, this person is doing this work with those qualifications of they get to do it on their own time and might have a deadline. They may have a deadline. That is a contract work. If I'm hiring a W-2 worker, they're going to fill out a W-4, giving me what is their withholding requirements, etc. So it's two different pieces of paper, either a contract or a W-4 listing what are their exemptions so I can run payroll for them. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point. And we'll look at our groups next here. Look at this list. I'll go to this. Lori, it's on here as well. Thank you. Great transition. In independent contractors, Lori said, there's a different agreement, a different paperwork. Contract is a common word. So can be used a memorandum of understanding. So often is used an invoice for work, as opposed to the W-4 and the withholding. Here is a checklist that helps you think through, is someone best suited to be classified as a contractor, or is someone best suited to be considered an employee? An independent contractor operates under a business name. Now, it might be John Q. Public LLC. That's okay, but it's them doing business as Lori mentioned, putting in a furnace. You're hiring a contractor, they're coming in, they're putting in a furnace. Once it's in, they're gone. You're on to another project. They invoice you, you pay them. That's a contract relationship. Often, although this one is not mandatory, often the independent contractor has their own employees. They can have other people helping them fulfill the work that they've agreed to do for you. They maintain a separate business checking account. So the contractor is responsible for their taxes and reporting of such. You, the business owner, are giving them the gross amount at the end of the year. The contractor should also have more than one client and advertise their business services. We as contractors have assigned many of a document that says we have business cards, we have our phone number listed as a business, and we serve more than one client. That's a big deal, having more than one client. Invoicing for the work completed, or as Lori said, having a contract that actually describes that relationship. These two are key. Again, it can be called a memorandum of understanding, or it can be called an work agreement, but it clearly outlines that the person is a contractor, they're being paid gross, and the IRS likes there to be invoices for work involved. And the independent contractor is responsible for keeping their own business records as well. Similarly, we have an employee checklist, and we can compare and contrast these. For an employee, you, meaning the business owner, we define the work hours. Again, we can have remote working, we can be flexible, we can encourage autonomy, those things, but there is an expectation that someone is dedicating their work and their time to the business and the job. You, the business owner, provide the equipment and the supplies. The relationship is considered to be longer term, not indefinite in terms of we're always going to be together. Obviously, sometimes employees don't work out, but unlike the contractor that may build my website and their job be done, or Lori's furnace provider may put the furnace in and then they're done. An employee relationship is expected to go on longer. As I described in our business, it's not uncommon. Someone may be with us a couple of months and do some contract work. We find it's a good fit. We have contracts to justify. Therefore, the contractor becomes an employee. Typically, no invoices would be involved for an employee. They get a paycheck. This is not a must, but it is a common that the worker works only for you. The contrast here that we're making is that the contractor has more than one client for sure, and that's one of the definitions of contractor. An employee, not necessarily, and there isn't a contract. The worker performing core business services is a key part. What is it that the person is doing? I'm not in the website business, so I hire the person to do my website. That's pretty clear. I'm in the advertising business, let's say I'm a publisher, a marketer. If I'm bringing someone in and they're doing that work also, and I'm guiding that work, I'm training them to do that work, they're using my materials for that work, they're likely an employee because they're performing core functions that my business performs. All right, if we are unsure about how to classify a worker, there is help out there. You don't have to call the IRS directly and ask them to walk you through it, although I'm sure there's a department for that, but there is a very helpful form called an SS8. that's referred to as a determination of worker status for purposes of federal employment taxes and withholding. And you can find that on the internet. It's about 3 pages long. You answer a series of questions, you submit it, and then you get some federal opinion about whether what you've described is a contractor or an employee.
Helpful places.
Thank you for watching our video. If you would like to speak with a business advisor at no cost to you, please feel free to reach out. We're the Small Business Development Center at Blue Mountain Community College. Please attend one of our workshops, either virtually or in person, or just give us a call. Thank you.